Don't get me wrong, Vancouver is still one of the best cycling cities in North America. It has the seawall, the cycle tracks, and even decent traffic calming in some areas. But that doesn't get it off the hook for what honestly sucks. My name is Nick, Two Wheels Good. Subscribe for regular content. And what I mean by sucks are things that simply make cycling less pleasant than it could otherwise be, and therefore keeps the cycling modal share from growing. With it currently sitting at around 3 to 7%, depending on who you ask, it's not bad when compared to cities sharing the continent, but when you head overseas, it's easily blown away by the 50+% shares in the top cities. So, if the goal is to create a safe and viable alternative to driving which can help improve car traffic, health, mental well-being, and even save the city and its residents money, then these sucky things are impeding that goal. Now, if that's not what you want for Vancouver or any city, then please have a nice day. This video is not for you, but for the rest of you, let's get on with it. Starting with my biggest gripe, which you may think would not be enough actual protected and grade separated bike lanes, but no, my number one gripe is with bicycle streets, or the fact that we don't really have them. We have what are called designated bike routes along what are meant to be slow streets. These routes crisscross the city, which could be a great thing. However, the way they have been implemented, by and large, has been piss poor. The reason is that the only thing differentiating the vast majority of these routes from the neighboring streets is nothing more than signs and the occasional sharrow painted on the asphalt. This lazy approach has led to the inevitable result of drivers using it just like any other street, as a shortcut through neighborhoods with speeds often exceeding the 30 km/h limit or blowing through stop signs. Not only does this create an environment that feels dangerous, it actually is. The lack of modal filters leads to scenes like this on Heather. When schools are out in the afternoon, parents swarm the area and use these bike routes as shortcuts through the neighborhoods, and we wonder why parents don't want their kids biking to school. And this is the case for the majority of these routes once you go anywhere away from the downtown core. No modal filters, only occasional speed bumps near schools or parks, and crossings at high-speed roads that dare you to play Frogger. And even the shining example of the east-west 10th Avenue has huge gaps in modal filtering and very few blocks with one-way flow for cars. Here where the Alder bike route intersects 10th, you get a great vantage point. You can see all 8 blocks between a modal filter at Burrard in the west and Oak in the east. From here you will soon see drivers hitting 50 km/h, blowing stop signs, and cutting onto the route only to exit a few blocks later. This isn't good enough. It sucks. This is not AAA cycling infrastructure. And the reason why these crappy bike routes are on the top of my shit list is because they should serve as the backbone of a good cycling network. And if you wouldn't want your 8-year-old riding there, then it's a failure. But there is a fix. As usual, the Netherlands have figured these out. Their bike streets are bike streets where it's explicitly stated drivers are guests, cyclists have priority. Cars are generally only on the street if they need access to a specific block, and the speeds are actually kept to 30 km/h or below. And one place where it has been implemented decently well is in the west end of downtown Vancouver, where modal filters curb access to drivers trying to cut through the neighborhoods. So while I think beautiful bike lanes are great and deserve a place in our city, turning our bike routes into quality bike streets should be priority number one. It's something that can be implemented quickly with daylighting at intersections, speed bumps, narrowing of the lanes, and way more modal filters. I'll surely have more videos on feat strats in the future, so stay tuned for that. But these crappy bike routes are the big reason for the second thing that sucks. There's not a proper AAA network of cycling infrastructure. You should be able to go out on an unplanned route and be able to make it to your destination without putting yourself in precarious situations. And along with the problems of the aforementioned bike routes, they take circuitous and less direct ways, but more importantly, you will far too often be met with the infrastructure just ending. Here on Burrard, a protected lane spits you out into traffic. This separated path ends in parking, and even the prized Arbutus Greenway just simply ends, leaving you to guess on where to go next. This is not an easy fix and will need a comprehensive plan to address. However, I believe building those bike streets would be a big step in getting a complete network. Now, sucky thing number 3 is light timings and signal priority. First are leading pedestrian intervals, which are pretty rare in Vancouver. You may have an easier time finding delayed pedestrian signals in the city. LPIs allow pedestrians to get ahead of car traffic for safety and can also be a green for cyclists for the same reason. This has been implemented in San Francisco to great effect. Timings along streets like Hornby or Richards, each adorned with nice wide two-way grade-separated cycle tracks. However, riding down these often leads to the frustration of hitting many red lights along what should be a green wave. The problem is, the lights are timed for cars traveling at 50 km/h, while the bike light is delayed further by the advance right or left at many of these intersections. A more appropriate speed would be 30 km/h, which would not only give the opportunity for cyclists, who are a bit quicker to make the green wave, but also improve safety for everyone, and as studies suggest, even improve flow for car traffic. The last thing about signaling are the beg buttons. When biking in the city, you will inevitably come across these beg buttons, which are certainly better than nothing. However, they signal one thing, that you, as a cyclist, or pedestrian for that matter, have to ask to be given your turn to keep moving. Thankfully, many will immediately change if it's been a while since it's been pressed. But this brings up a bigger discussion about why our traffic lights in Vancouver, and broadly speaking, North America, are so dumb. Smart traffic light systems have been around for quite a while, but for some reason we have yet to adopt them. Systems in the Netherlands, for example, can detect a cyclist before they reach the intersection, and if the way is clear, will give them the green light. In fact, this could be better for everyone using the streets, not just cyclists. The fourth thing that sucks about cycling in Vancouver, as it does in most places, are the cars. This is still a city dominated by cars with a modal share of over 50%. They are simply everywhere, and the built environment reflects that. Cars are the priority. Beautiful views marred by the presence of speeding cars. Streetscapes dominated by several lanes of free-flowing traffic and parking, cars parked in the bike lanes, cars left idling and polluting the streets, and as mentioned previously, constantly speeding through bike routes. But most importantly, the frequency of close calls with motorists who are aggressive, simply aren't paying attention, or as a result of poor infrastructure. And all of this motordom is a deterrent to many, and likely a big reason why most people simply do not want to ditch their own car. It's a four-wheeled standoff in which nobody wants to be the first, as that's the one who will take on the most risk. This isn't going to be solved overnight. We still need cars. However, investments in safe cycling infrastructure and reliable transit can shift the Overton window and encourage folks to make choices that are not only better for themselves, but better for the whole city. And speaking of the city, that leads us to my last gripe, which is the unsupportive council. And this is something that's always going to be in flux. We live in a democracy where each individual is going to have their own priorities. They want to be addressed, and that's not to mention any shadowy backroom dealings. But that doesn't change the fact that it really sucks to have a mayor and city council that is generally not interested in improving the state of cycling infrastructure and safety in the city. Since the council took power in 2022, they have shown their true intentions. We saw the removal of the Stanley Park bike lane, removal of the bike lanes and the plans for the Broadway corridor, and shooting down motions that would help make our streets safer. While Vancouver may have been North America's cycling crown jewel in the past, as it is, we have at best stalled. But they did one good thing. The public backlash resurrected critical mass, while also spurring a handful of grassroots organizations who are working to make the city safer and more livable for everyone. So while it's not great right now, I am hopeful that we'll be back on track in no time. And those were 5 things that suck about cycling in Vancouver, but I also reached out to the community to see what other people think should be improved. And the top were more secure bike storage and theft prevention, like bike parkades at transit stops or in parking garages, more cycling highways. Now, we have a few greenways across town, but many of them just end, and there aren't many good connections outside Burnaby and Richmond. Better accommodations for bikes on transit so commuters can utilize micromobility more effectively. More routes in general, and this user mentions the closure of the Central Valley Greenway that left riders with no good alternative east-west route. And you can check out this thread, I'll leave the link below. But this final one sums it up for me. I've kind of said this earlier, but their largest complaint is that we were the leader in the space, then just let it flounder. Now cities are surpassing us in single mayoral terms. And that's it. We need to put our heads down and keep working on making Vancouver a safer, healthier city where anyone can feel confident getting on 2 wheels if they want to. And if you want to help out, check out Vision Zero Vancouver, Strong Towns Vancouver, Hub Cycling, or equivalent organizations in your city, because change is possible. With that, my name is Nick. Thanks for watching.